Welcome back to Learning Partners. So in this video, we are going to see how we can implement the login page, and that login API will be a token based. So we will implement the JWT login plus interceptor. After we log in, we get the token. That token we need to send along with all the API call in the header section. So we will implement the interceptor. Then an additional functionality, the token I will be getting will have some expiry time. So with my API, I have set it for the 1 minute only. So after 1 minute, that token will expire. So once the token expire, again you need to call another API to get the new token. So this is just the login form I will be using. So what I have done is like simply HTML CSS login page code pen. And in that I have opened this page. So let me just go over here. If we open this website, you will get tons of the login page. You can easily implement, just copy paste the CSS and use it. So around, I think, third or fourth page, I have this login page, which I have implemented. Let me just check it. Okay, you can implement any one. So now this is the login page I'm going to use. Then these are the APIs I have. So in JWT controller, you can see registration API is there, login API is there. Once you do the login, you will get the token and the refresh token also. And refresh API token is also there. And the one API is there, which is authenticated, get all users. So if you try to integrate this API in your component, and if you don't pass the token along with the API, you won't get the response. But if you pass the token, you will get the response. So these are the APIs we are going to use. Now coming back to like how token based and refresh token works actually. So you consider like you have a client side application. So from client side application, what we do, we make a authentication. So we give a call to login API. It will go to the server and server will validate that credential and it will return the access token. This is what I'm talking, right? So once we make the API call, in the response, if the details we have provided are correct, we will get the token. Now token will be of two types. One access token and one will be the refresh token. So now you will get two tokens, one access token and one a refresh token. Now the in interceptor, you will pass just the normal token. But when you hit the refresh API, so that time you are going to need that second token, that is refresh token. Now, so we will get the token back in the client side. We will store it in the local storage or session storage or cookies anywhere in the client side. Then in all the API after the login API, what are the API call we make? We need to pass that token in the header section so that on the API side, it will validate that token. And if the token is valid, then only it will return the response. Otherwise, it will give 400 or 401 like unauthorized API response, right? So with my API, let's say I have provided the session timeout as 1 minute only. So you get the token. Let's say after 1 minute, you try to navigate to another page and you hit the API. But that time, that token will be invalid because it is expired. So again, once it is expired, you have to again call the refresh API token because we cannot ask user to again go back to the login page and again login. So internally, we have to hit the login API, get the new token and store it in the local storage, and then again do that API call. In what API call you got the error. This is how our authentication or the authorization works in a token based API. Now, so just a normal Angular 17 project I have created. Now, whatever the code I will be explaining, same code will work in the previous version also. Just like with Angular 17, some code syntax or the syntax is different, but logic will be same. Whatever I would do over here, you can implement the same with the older version also. Now, while creating the Angular project, I have created it with, let me just show you the command, with standalone false. So you can see this is the project command, ng new. This is the repository name I have created, same name I have given to the project with standalone false, right? So this is the command which I have used to create the project. Let me just paste it over here. Ng new, this is my project name and with standalone false. So this is an Angular 17 project, but if you say standalone false, let me just show the package down. So you can say this is a 17 project, but if you say standalone false, so you will get the old structure with app module. But if you don't provide this standalone false, now you won't get app module. The whole structure will be different, the Angular 17 structure, right? So in this project, I have created three components. dashboard, layout, and the login. So in second terminal, I have created this component. So login component, layout component, and the dashboard component. And I have installed the Bootstrap and the font awesome also. So for that, I have installed it, but it is not provided here because I use the reusable node module folder. But in angular.json, I have added it. So you can install the Bootstrap and the font awesome if you need. After that, the basic thing what I have done is ready. Now, once you create the component, next thing you have to do is the create the routes. So this is an empty route file which we create. So let's start now. So first path I will create is the default path. So path route will be empty, redirect to, I will redirect to login, and path match strategy we need to pass. And here we need to match the full path. This is my default route. After that, we need to create a route with login. So login, and component I will be opening is the login one. After that, so this is the basic project, right? After once you create the project, app component will be your parent component. So once if you are not logged in, your parent component will be app component. But once you are logged in, your parent component should change. So that's why I have created extra component that is layout. So in this layout component, I will have my navbar. So once you do the login, all the component which are accessible after the login, all those component will be loaded into this layout component. So once you log in, your parent component will change. So that will be layout component. So I will need one more route. So path will be my empty only. Component will be layout component. Now for this layout component, I will have children's. So now in children, what are the component you are going to display after the login? All should be part of the children of the layout component. So again, here I will create the route. So for currently I just have created one component. So that is dashboard. So I'm creating route for that component dashboard. So this is just I'm taking for an example. So you can create, or if you are following this in your actual project, so you might have several components. So all those components will go over here, right? So this is the route structure you need to have when you are trying to implement the login functionality. Again, this is not with the website. If you are working on the website, you don't need this kind of structure. But if you are working on the admin panel, like you need to show just the login page. And once you do the login, you need to show the navbar or the sidebar. In that scenario only, you need to create structure like this. But if your application is kind of a website, so you don't need this structure. All your route will be like this only, not with any children. So routing is done. Let's close this. After routing, so I have already completed the copy pasted this code into my login component. So this is the HTML I have copy pasted from there. Just the extra thing what I have done is I have created a class with parent, and whatever the CSS were there with the body that I have replaced with the parent. So now in app component, we get this basic structure we created, right? In Angular. So I need to remove everything and I need to add router outlet over here. So now if I save, the default route will be executed and the default route is login. So I have run this application on localhost 4200. So now if you can see, even if I don't have anything now, by default, it is navigating to the login. So on the login page is visible. But my API won't give API response on this port. So let me just run it back. So here you will see one more thing, like if you need to run Angular project on specific port. So let me just stop this compilation. NGS hyphen port 3005. So I'm running my Angular application on this particular port. Now, first, I will create a service because I'm going to make an API call. So I need to create a service. Before making service, I'm going to use forms. So I'm going to use the ng model and the HTTP clients also. So for that, I need to add HTTP client module and the forms module over here. Client module and forms module I have to add. If you are going to design the form with reactive, so you need to add the reactive form module as well. So our app module work is done. Now we have to create a service. So in app folder, I'm creating a folder that is services, and inside the services, I'm creating one service. So new terminal, and here I have to create the service. Ng generate service. Let's say user service I'm creating. So I'm just creating one API call. There only one service. There only I will create all the API call functions. Now here first thing like private HTTP colon HTTP client. Now in this service, first API call function I'm going to create, that is for the login. So registration part I won't do. I will use the user registered already there, because that is not the aim of this video. So function name will be on login. Now in this function, we have to do the API call. So, and whatever the API call data we get, that we have to return. So this dot HTTP dot API call is post. If you see the Swagger, so login API is with the post one, and we have to send the object also. So this function will have a parameter that is obj. I'm not creating interface or class just to limit the video length. And here we need to pass the API URL. So let me just get the URL. So this is my URL, and we need to pass the object. So obj. Now this function is returning a data type of observable. So you can either provide a data return type also over here, or you can skip it, doesn't matter. So our in user service, we have created login functionality. Now login page API call. Now in login component, we have to create our object. So if you see email ID and the password, two things are there. So this object we need to create. So let's copy. Now we have to create an object over here. So login obj colon any. I have pasted it. Let's remove this. So I have created an object with two fields. Now this object I need to bind to my form. So this is a form where we have this square bracket, round bracket ng model, login object dot email ID, and password also. So I will just copy paste this over here. And the second is password field. Now, as we are using ng model inside a form tag, so name attribute becomes mandatory. So we have to add name attribute also. In name attribute, you can pass the same whatever you have written over there in the ng model. Otherwise, you will get the error, right? We don't have the register and everything. Remember me also, I'm removing, and forgot password also. Now instead of type submit, I'm making it as button. Let's just save and check if we have any error. So as a front-end developer, while working, every time our console should be on. So we should see like if we are getting any console error or not. Nothing error is there. Now on click of login, we need to write our API code. So click login. This is the function we have to create. So let's go to .ts. Here login function. Again, after variable, we need to create instance of our service. So constructor private user SRV, it will be instance of user service. So once I select, you can see import has been automatically added. Now in this function, we have to write, we have to consume that particular function from the user service. So user service dot on login. Now this to this function, we have to send one parameter, the object. So object is nothing but that the login object which we have created, and we have to subscribe to the response whatever we get. So result colon any. So if res dot result. Now all my API return the object of object where result message and the data fields are there. So I'm just checking check where API call is success or not. Now, so if you see the response of the API. So you get result as true. This is the data you get. User ID also you get, email ID also you get, token and the refresh token. All these four fields you get. So now this data, whatever the data you get from the login API, you need to store it into the local storage. Otherwise, how your application will know like which user is logged in? So we need to store data in the either in the local storage, session storage, or the cookie. Somewhere you need to store, or in the service also you need to store. But once you refresh, service variable get deleted. So obviously you need to store either of three. So once we get the data, if login is success, we have to store the data. So local storage dot set item. Now we are getting the object, right? So Angular, just a key I'm giving Angular 17 token data. This is the key. And to local storage, when we have to store the data into the local storage, always we have to convert it into the string. So we have to use the method that is already provided by JavaScript. So json.string event, we need to pass res.data because in data we have the data, actual login object. Now, once we store the data in the local storage, we have to navigate to the dashboard page, right? So here we have to create object of router. So router colon. Now in Angular 17, rather than creating like this, we have one more way. So I will just show it over here. We can make use of inject also. Constant router, sorry, not a constant. So here what we can say, router is equal to inject you can use, and for inject you can pass router. So this is equivalent to this, what we do in the constructor. Okay, so with Angular 17, we had these new things because if you implement the authguard now there, now in Angular 17, authguard is a arrow function. So in arrow function, we don't have constructor. So if we have to create the instance of router, you can create like this. Now, so this dot router dot navigate by URL. What are the things where there? Same thing will be available because just the object creation is something different, but things will be same only. So once we do the login, we have to navigate to the dashboard. So let's get the dashboard URL. Let's put it over here. So on click of login, let's add a debugger. Again, make a habit whenever you are writing the code first time, try to put a debugger, see what data you are getting, right? Once we get the API call again, we will add the debugger. And in else also, we will add the error like wrong credential or whatever the error we are getting from the API. So res dot message. Now let's save and debug the code. Now the data I will be using is one data is there. That is, I will just use. So now here I have to use Rahul at the rate gmail.com. This is the email, this is the registered email ID already I have already, or you can register from the Swagger also, and the password is 223344. But for now, I'm just entering the wrong password something. Just need to check like if we are getting the wrong over here. Now, once we click on the login, okay, sorry. We have run the project on different port. Let it load. Yes, let's type again. Rahul at the Gmail. I'm passing the wrong password. Once you click on the login, now you can see that event got caught. Now, if you hover the object, so you can see whatever we have typed that we have got, but this password is wrong. Okay. But now if I continue, why it is saying unauthorized API JWT login payload we have sent. It should not say unauthorized. Let me just check if I have written something else in the API. So this API I have written like that. If you pass the incorrect credential, so I'm returning unauthorized like that. That's why we are getting the unauthorized over here. Now, so even if we get the unauthorized, we need to show some error, right? So that you can handle over here by adding a catch block. So after subscribe error, And here alert, you can show like wrong credential. If we get the error from this API, we are this alert error block will execute and we are showing the wrong credential. So let's just check one more time. So Rahul, just the wrong password, login, continue. So you can see it is going to the else error block. Now let's try to enter the correct password. So 223344. Now just pay attention. So if we click on the login now, our success block should execute. Continue. So now you can see our subscribe block got executed because API was success. Now in the result, you can see we have got result as true. And in data, we have got email ID, refresh token, and the token and the user ID. Whatever the user we have logged in, that we have got. So now that out of that data only we are storing. So whole object, whatever we have got from the login API, that we are storing to the local storage. So result is true. It will go to the if block. We are storing the data into the local storage, and after storing, we are navigating to the dashboard. So you can see it is navigating to the dashboard, but here you can see only layout work is visible. That's because in the layout component, we have not added the navbar. So here we need to add the navbar. So let's go to W3. Let's get the code. Again, don't waste time to design the UI and everything. Try to copy paste whatever we have readily available, because our time should be wasted on the actual coding only, not the designing part. So this is the navbar. I will paste it over here. And after the router, as I said, once you do the login, your layout component is going to be your parent component. So you are going to need router outlet over here. So sometimes when interviewer asks you, like, can there be more than one router outlet in your Angular applications? Yes, as many as router outlet we can have. So because as you have seen in Angular app component also we have router outlet, and again in the layout also we have the router outlet. So let's just save. Let's check. Now you can see dashboard component is loading. Now if we see the local storage, so many datas are there. Let me just, what is the key we have stored? That is Angular 17 token data. Let me just remove the remaining. Refresh token also I'm removing, email ID also I'm removing. So now in the local storage, you have got the data, whatever you get from the API that we have successfully stored. Now in the dashboard component, I need to integrate another API, that is user API. So that API is authenticated. So this get all user, this API I need to integrate in my dashboard component, so that we have to check like if we don't pass the token, we will get unauthorized to if we try to integrate this API. Let's create a service call in use service. I will just copy. So here we have to write the API call for getting the user. So this is my API endpoint. This will go over here. This is a get API call, so we don't need the object. So let's remove this. So this function is responsible. Let me share it again. So this function is responsible to get all the users, right? So now this function we have to integrate into our dashboard component. So let me just close everything. Now we have to write the code into our dashboard component. So in dashboard component, first thing like we have to integrate our service. So private user srv colon user service. Now we are going to get the user, so that I will store into this variable any. Now here get users function I'm creating, and in this function we will make API call to this function, get users res colon any. We need to get the response. Sorry. Dot subscribe result colon any arrow function. Now whatever the response we get, that we need to store into this variable. So this dot user list is equal to res dot data, because in data you will get the actual array. Now this I'm just calling it in the constructor, but normally we should implement the ng on in it, and there we should call it. So let's just save it, because I just want to show you, like if we make this API call without the token, you will get unauthorized. So now if you see, let me just reload. So on the page load, constructor will execute and our function will get call. So you can see get all user API call is there, but we are getting the unauthorized because we haven't sent the token, because this API is restricted. Unless you send the token in the header here, you won't get the token. You won't get the data. API will say like the user is unauthenticated, right? So now in Angular, to send the token, either you can create a custom header there in service only, but that is not the right way. We should implement interceptor. So in service, I will implement the interceptor. So right click on the service, open new terminal, and here we will create the interceptor. So ng generate interceptor, and then my interceptor name will be custom. So normally, if you are working on the actual industrial project, so you might see uh, two or three interceptor. One will be for processing the ongoing outgoing request. One will be for processing the incoming response. Error interceptor will be there. Token interceptor will be there. Another interceptor will be there. So many interceptors can be there in an actual application. Now, so once the interceptor is there, we have to write our logic over there. So once you create the interceptor, that interceptor you need to add into your app module in the provider section. So now in providers, it will be object, use class. You need to provide your class name, that is custom interceptor. And one more property that will be provide. What we are going to provide is HTTP. What is it? Underscore interceptor. This will come from interceptor. So we need to add the import for this. And multi-true. This is one more property we need to pass. Why it is saying right. So one just small modification, like with the project is created with Angular 17. So before Angular 17, this used to work. We used to register interceptor in the provider section like this. But with Angular 17, even if you create the project with the normal structure, you have to register your interceptor like this. So you need to write provider, provide HTTP client with interceptor, and you need to provide your interceptor class name, just like this. Okay, so this is the small thing is there. But if you are creating your interceptor with, sorry, if your project is with the older version, you need to write like this. Same, this code will be over here instead of this. Now, so we have created interceptor. We have added that into the app module also. Now, next thing is like in interceptor, you need to clone your request. So whenever you make once you implement the interceptor, all your API call will go through the interceptor. So whatever the request you get, that you need to clone. Clone request is equal to, let me just get the code. This is the code. So we need to create a clone of the incoming request. So this is the incoming request. We have created a clone of it. And inside that, we are just adding a header. So now you need to connect with your API team, and you can ask him like what kind of token you need to send. Is it a bearer token, identity, or something else? There are so many ways you can create a token from the API source. So they will tell you like in header what you need to send. So with my API, I pass the token in the authorization, and this is my bearer token. So here we need to add the bearer token. Now, when we log in, we have stored the token into our local storage in this key, right? So I need to read the data now. So I'm just copy pasting this. We have to go it over here. I'm creating local variable data is equal to local storage. Now instead of set item, we need to read. So get item. So in the interceptor, we have created a local variable. We have read the data from the local storage. Now in the local storage, we have stored the data in the string format. So once we have got the object, that object we have converted into the string, and then we have stored that into the local storage. But once we retrieve it, we need the particular token from it. So we need to convert this data into another parse object. So I'm creating one more variable, logged user data, assigning it with empty object, or let it be anything. It will give error, yeah. So let it be empty object. Now we have to add a null check over here. If local data is not equal to null, otherwise it will throw the error. So that's why we have to add this null check. So if local data, we have got the local data. So then in this variable, we have to assign the data. So that will be, while storing the data, we have used json.stringify to convert the string data into again object format. So we have to use parse method. And we have to pass this thing over here. Instead of cons, it should be let, because we are reinitializing the value. Now, in this variable, we have got whatever the data we have stored over there. Now here in this variable, we have the token also. Let me just show you the local storage data. So here you can see token is that what we need to pass. So this variable, this property, we need to get it over here. And this is the new request. This is the incoming request. We have cloned that. It is saying token does not exist. Okay, let's try to access that with square bracket, because when still it is giving error. Let's try to provide any over here. Now it is not throwing error. Yes. So we have got the incoming request. That request we have created a new request, and inside that request we have added our headers. Now this new request we have to pass over here. Now let's save and check. But by now token might have expired. So still, even if we send the token now, we won't get the response. So you can see in the header, now we have sent the token, but my API is like, well, the token is valid only for 1 minute. So let's try to log in again. Let's go to login page. Let's try to log in again. 223344. Let's click on login. Continue, continue. So now if you see, we have got 200 and we have got the response. So in the header, you can see over here, authorization, bearer token we have sent, whatever the token we have got from the login. So you can see in the login, we have got the token starting from EYJ. So same, we have passed it in the header. Again, from the reading local storage only. Now this token is valid for 1 minute. So it's put 231. So let's wait for some time. Again, I will refresh. So now you can see after login, we have got the successful API call. But again, if I make the API call after 1 minute, token will expire. So again, you will get for unauthorized. Let's try layer load. We are getting. See, after 1 minute, you can see again, I have got the unauthorized, because now token got expired, right? So now here you need to add a functionality, like if token got expired, you need to again make an internally only. You will ask user, like, do you need to continue session? You will ask user to that, do you want to continue this session? Again, internally only we will call another API to get the new token. So in the local storage, if you see, we have got one more token, that is refresh token. So this token you need to pass to this API. So that is this API, refresh API. So here you need to pass the refresh token. Token is not necessary over here, just the email ID and the token you need to pass. Okay, so now let's create this function in our API call. Then we will write the function. So just like on login, I'm just copy pasting. Here function name will be get refresh token. API will be refresh. Refresh and the object whatever we get, we will pass it. Now, where and how we should we need to, once we get the unauthorized, we have to integrate this API call. Then we will get the token, and that token we will again store to the local storage. But where we should do this? So we have to do this API call function in interceptor. But in interceptor, we have this is just an interceptor. From here, we cannot make an API call, right? But here we need to add a catch block. Once we get interceptor, what is the purpose of interceptor? It will monitor incoming request and the outgoing request also. Means whatever the requests are going, and once we get the response, that also we can check. So here you need to add a catch block. So here pipe we can use, and then catch error, round bracket, error, and it will be opt out HTTP error code, something is there, HTTP error response. Okay, then arrow function, and we have to return also, return through error, and inside that we have to pass the error. So this is your catch block. So remember what I said, if you see in your actual industrial project, now there will be multiple interceptors. So you will have error interceptor. In error interceptor, you can find this code. Okay, so if your API throws in error, now this block will execute. Now here we need to write the check. So now if you see, once the token is invalid, we get 401. So with this particular status, we need to write the code. So here, if error dot status is equal to 401, means if it is unauthorized, then we need to show what do we say? Confirmation box. Like, do you want to continue? So here I'm creating a confirm box is refresh is equal to confirm dialog box I'm using. And here I will show the message. Let's say your session is expired. Do you want to continue? So this kind of message you might have seen in very application, mainly banking, you will have it. Session is expired. Do you want to continue? But in banking application, they won't let you to refresh the token. You again need to log in back. So once user clicks on OK, so means in his refresh, we will get true. Then we need to make an API call. But again, what I said, in interceptor, we cannot create an API call. So in this function, we have to create a subject now. So here I'm creating a subject. So that will be public dollar refresh token new subject with the data type, let's say Boolean, true we will pass. So we have created an subject. Now this subject we have to emit once the 401 is there and user clicked on OK. So again, we have to create an object. So constant user service. So again, this is an arrow function. So we don't have intercept now, we don't have constructors, but we need to create an object of user service. So we have to use inject from bracket user service. But if you are working on the previous version, so you will get normal class will be there. So you can create the same thing into constructor. Now user service here, user service dot refresh token dot next you have to use, and we will pass just over here. So once API call is there, and if your token is expired, this catch block will execute. And here, if the error code is 401, we will show the confirmation box. This, if user clicks on OK, we will get true in this variable. And if it is true, this if block will execute. And from this, we are emitting. Now this token, this subject, we have to subscribe in this service only. So this dot refresh token dot subscribe. I'm subscribing to this token, right? And in this subscribe token, I have to call this API. But if we do, yeah, so here instead of passing this object over here, we can create whatever the object we need to send to this API. Na, here only we will create. But just understand this. Once we get the 401, we are showing the pop-up. Like, do you want to continue? If user clicks on OK, we are emitting this subject. Once we emit that, this will execute. And in this subscribe, we are calling this function. So now here we need to create the object, what we need to pass to the API. So here you can say this is the object we need to pass. Let's me copy this. Let me paste it over here. Now email ID and the token. Token doesn't matter if you don't need to send the token. Just the email ID and the token is mandatory. Again, the data is stored into the local storage. So we need to read that data. So in the token, in the interceptor, we already read that. So I'm just getting that, copy, and in this function only I will paste it. So now in local user data, we have got the whole data. So here local user data dot email ID, it will be in the capital case. And in the refresh token, we need to pass. So refresh token is like what we get from the login API. And this object we have to pass over here. So let me just add a debugger. I will explain the code. Here also I'm adding the debugger. In catch block also I'm adding the debugger. So let's just save all and let's check. Still some functionality again remaining, because once we get the new token, we need to again store it back to the local storage. But I will just show the half part. Now you can see API call is there, but we have got unauthorized. So you can see catch block got executed. Now in error, you can see we have got 401 status, unauthorized, everything. So if it is unauthorized 401, we are showing the pop-up. So you can see your session is expired. Do you want to continue? If we click on OK, we will get true over here. And once we get the true, we are emitting this subject. Once this subject gets emitted, let's add the debugger in that service also. So this subscribe will execute. If I continue from here, so see currently debugger execution point is over in the custom interceptor. From here, we are emitting this subject. Once we continue, so now you can see this we have got executed. Now, once this is executed, we are calling this function. Let's continue. Now again, we are reading the data from the local storage. We have got the data. In that data, we have got the email ID and the refresh token also. So currently, we have just created the object. Object is created. Wait, why it is not created? Okay, again, it is in the small case. So you can see while storing the data, it is in the small case. So we have written that in the capital case. It should be in the small case only. But once we do the API call, this function, we should not return anything. Here only we need to subscribe. So because once we get the new token, that we need to store it also, right? So res colon any. So whatever the code we have written in the login to store the data, that only we will use it. So this thing, we have to use it over here and capital res. So we are just replacing the resetting the data, whatever we have got. Not sure if we are getting the email ID. Let's check in from the refresh API. Let's reload again. So token is expired. We have got error. Okay. Now we are in the user service. Now here we have read the data from the local storage. Now let's check the object. So object is proper. Email ID is also there and the refresh token is also there. Now we are making the API call. So continue. So now from this we have got 200 and the response, we will get the new token. So in the response, we have got the new data. So you can see refresh token and the token is there, but we don't have the email ID because in the refresh token, I have not sent the data, this email ID and the token. So in the login, we need to store the user ID and the email in a separate token. So token, email, and this is user ID. Because in the refresh token, I'm not getting the user ID and everything. So that's why I'm just storing the user ID and email ID in a separate variable. Data dot email ID and here user ID. So let's just save. Now, one more thing, like in the dashboard component, we make this API call and this API got failed. That's why we have again called the refresh token and we have got the new token, right? So now once we refresh and we get the updated token, we should see the API call properly. Let's just test the whole functionality. So we have got the error. We have shown the response. So now here we have created the object and that object we have sent to the API call. Let's continue. Again, we have got the error. Why? Something is wrong. Let's try to see the same functionality again because login was not there. That might be the issue. Let's try to log in again. 223344 login. So on click of login now, I'm storing the data into this email ID and the user ID over here. So now we are storing the email ID into another variable in the local storage. So in user service, where we read the data now, same thing like that. We need to, instead of reading it from over here, I'm reading it from this variable get item because I'm storing the email ID into another property. So that's why I have done like this. That's it. So let's just reload one more time. Now we can test finally. So Rahul 223344 login, continue. Now we have got success. 200 is there because currently token is valid. So in the header, you can see token is also passed. Now in the application, you can see we have got three variable token data, email ID, and the user ID also. Now let's just wait for 1 minute. It is success. After 1 minute, my token will expire. Then we will get unauthorized. Then we will show that OK pop up. And again, we will get the new token. So now you can see in case of 200, our API catch block is not executed. But once we get that 401, now that catch block will execute. 1 minute is not over it. Hmm. So now after 1 minute, you can see catch block got executed. We have got 401. We will show the pop-up on click of OK. We are emitting the subject. We have subscribed to that in the service. We make the API call over here. So once we get the data, why we are sending unauthorized again? Okay, that's why. So you can see in the email ID, email is not gone proper. That's why we are getting email not match. So we have stored the data while storing in the login component, we have made the mistake. So we don't need to convert it, right? So it's a string data. So we don't need to convert it. That was the mistake because in local storage, because of this, we have got some slash over there. Let's just save now. Everything should work properly now. Let's go to login page again. So Rahul 223344 login. So currently API call is success. Let's wait for another 1 minute. So I will keep this APIs free so everyone can use it on the particular port. I will remove like other APIs are not free. You cannot use it. So I will keep this API free so that everyone can use it. Let's reload. Let's wait for some more time. Mhm. So again, I have not added the logout button and I have not shown the email ID, logged in email ID. But if you are practicing it, you should do that also. You can show the logged in username over here and the logout button. On click of logout button, you can remove the local storage data and then you can redirect to the login page. That thing you can do. Let's try it now. Yes, so now the token is expired and we have got 401. Let's continue. Let's click on OK. We are in the service. API call is also there. Now you can see we have got the success, and whatever the token, whatever the data we have got, that we have stored into the local storage with Angular 17 token data. So now refresh token is success, but now if I refresh, you will get API call success. But how user will know, na? Like he has to refresh. So whatever, once we get the refresh token, in whatever the page we have, that API call need to be auto triggered. Means this get user API call should be automatically again hit, right? User is not going to refresh again. So that for that also you can create one more subject. Let me just create a subject, then you will understand. Refresh token received. And once we get the token, we have to emit that. So this dot refresh token received dot next. So the newly subject I have created, I'm emitting it from here. Means this subject will denote that we have got the refresh token and it is stored into the local storage also. And this we have to subscribe into our dashboard component over here. So user service, and we have to subscribe. And inside this function, we just need to call this. So now you will understand. I don't need to refresh. You will get the API call properly. Again, we have to wait for 1 minute. Yeah, so 1 minute is expired. So token is expired already. So now if we click on OK, refresh token is there. And once we get the data, we have success. Why it is still we are giving error? API call is proper. Let's try to do the login thing again. Rahul@gmail.com 223344. Let's click on login. Now, let me just one more time repeat. We have created two subject. One is for refresh token. This subject will get triggered once we get to know like a token is expired. From here, we are emitting that. Once we emit, we are subscribing the same in the user service. And in the user service, in this function, we have written the code to get the new token. Once we get the new token, we are again emitting another subject, that is refresh token received. And this subject you have to integrate. This subject you have to subscribe in all your component. Currently, I just have one. So whenever you are, whatever the page you are, if the token export, that API call, whatever the API calls are there in the on page load, you need to make those call again, right? So here I am subscribing to that, and again I'm making the call. So let's just save and see if it is working. Let's reload so that we don't have to reload again. So we have got the error. Continue. Okay. Refresh token received. We will go to the refresh token function. We have created the object. We have made the API call. Let's add a debugger over here. We have got the node token. We have stored it also, and we are emitting the subject. And once we emit this, it will go to the dashboard component here. And another API call will be there. So you can see after refresh, another API call is there, that is get all user. So user doesn't know, like API internally, After user just given the permission like, yes, I need to extend my session. So internally we have did all these things. We have got the token, that token we have stored to the local storage. And again, we have make the API call, whatever the user were currently on. So this subject thing in all your pages, this API call should be there. Subscribe should be there, because whatever the API call you need to make on the on page load, all you have to do over here also again. So this is how we implement the refresh token functionality. Again, it is dependent on the API. So if again you need to contact your API team, like what kind of token, in what header you need to pass, they will tell you like where you need to pass it, just like I have provided in the bearer and the authorization key. So they will provide you like in which key and value you need to pass, like that you need to pass. So this code is available on the GitHub. So that name is Angular JWT login with refresh token. I will just push it. So you can also access the same and you can practice. The APIs are provided over here in the JWT controller. You can access this. That's it with the current video.